Well, hey there, freaks. It's your boy Marty Bent here to introduce you to this week's episode with Gleb Naumenko, who's currently a resident at Chain Code Labs, doing incredible things. We had a great conversation talking about his experience building an exchange, helping to build an exchange in the Ukraine, what he's working on Erlay to help bring down bandwidth restraints on Bitcoin, as well as his thoughts on the Erebus attack and bringing Bitcoin to a bigger academic audience. Incredible conversation. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. Before we jump into it, got to give a shout out to the Cash App. You already know all about them. They're helping us stack sats. They're helping us save money. It's incredible what you can do on the app. You can buy, sell Bitcoin. You can move it off the app, send it straight to Wasabi if you want. Mix up those UTXOs. Get them off your track, if you will. On top of that, they have the Boost program. I used it yesterday at Whole Foods to save 5%. Basically, what that is a specialized debit card. It's accepted anywhere the Visa's accepted. You can personalize it, put your little signature, your initials, whatever it may be, even a Bitcoin symbol if you want. And you put the Boost on. You go to Whole Foods. You can go to Chick-fil-A. You can go to Chipotle. There's a bunch of other merchants, your local coffee shop. You use your Boost card while the Boost is enabled, and you're going to save a little bit of money there. Use the code STACKINGSATS. That's one word, STACKINGSATS. You're going to get $5, and $5 is going to go to Owls Lacrosse, a charity helping boys and girls in Chicago learn leadership skills through the sport of lacrosse. Again, Stacking Sats. If you haven't downloaded Cash App already, go to your local app store and do that. Don't know what you guys are waiting for. Get that $5, Stacking Sats. And enjoy this conversation with Gleb, an extremely intelligent human being working to make Bitcoin more robust and more secure.
Tales from the Crypt.
What is up, freaks? Welcome back to Tales from the Crypt. It's your boy Marty Bent here in the studio on a Tuesday night, on another night with another member of the Chain Code Labs crew. Very excited about this interview tonight. This man is working on some very incredible software, incredible improvements to the Bitcoin protocol, particularly with bandwidth efficiency and many other things. Excited to dive into his history and how he got to where he is today. I'd like to introduce you freaks to Gleb Naumenko. Gleb, welcome to the podcast.
Hey guys, yeah, let's talk about Bitcoin.
Thanks for coming by, man. You got an interesting story, so I think we should just jump into it. You say you're from the Ukraine. You were saying you first got into Bitcoin. You started an exchange while living in the Ukraine.
Well, we had a company which we've done all the things. I joined it when there was just 5 people, and we were building a local exchange, a local wallet. We did some, like, not really Bitcoin, like more wider financial stuff. But yeah, that was fun. It was not that early. It was 2015, but it was still like, not that common. So we had fun.
What's the Bitcoin community in Ukraine like? Is it pretty popular over there, or?
Well, it depends. It depends on the Bitcoin rate, I guess. Because one meetup we had in my hometown, which my hometown is Kharkiv, it's like 1.5 million people, and we had, I think, about 700 people at once.
Holy crap!
Yes, but that was when Bitcoin was 20 or what, 20,000, and so it unfortunately depends on that. So people lose interest when Bitcoin goes down, but generally, I think there is genuine interest because Bitcoin enables people to, to accept payments from abroad, for example. So, yeah.
Is that particularly useful in the Ukraine?
A lot of people do freelance, and that's a way to make it easier. I know several people who do that. For example, my mom is getting paid in Bitcoin. She helps to translate software for American company into Russian and Ukrainian. So using banks to pay her would take like several days. It would charge more than Bitcoin in fees, and the bank on receiving side would require to explain where the payment is coming from. And that's really hard because you have to translate it into Ukrainian to show that. So I just helped my mom to set up the Bitcoin wallet and ask the company to pay her. And yeah, so there are several examples like that. And I think those things just drive Bitcoin in countries like Ukraine.
Yeah. And so you said you ended up interning at Blockstream. How did you get there?
Yeah, so in 2017, after starting doing masters at UBC in Vancouver, Canada, I told my supervisor that I'm interested in Bitcoin, and one of my supervisors, and she was like, I was invited to this Bitcoin conference at Stanford, but I don't want to go. Do you want to go instead of me? And then I was happy to get a free trip and to talk to famous people from Bitcoin community, because I was like involved, but I was not actively working at that time. And that's where I met guys from Blockstream and from Chaincode. And Blockstream at that point just invited me to do an internship in summer. And then I went to Blockstream with a couple ideas, and that's essentially was the beginning of Erlay.
What were you studying in your master's program?
That was master's in computer science. We were focusing on distributed systems and security. So Bitcoin was like a natural thing to work on there.
So is there something about like the transaction relay part of Bitcoin that really drew you to it, and why you focused on Erlay, or?
Well, I went to that conference, and then I was excited to contribute to Bitcoin research-wise. And then I just started looking at the protocol, and I found that there is a lot of inefficiency in transaction relay, and somehow nobody looked at it much since early days. There was minor improvement, and later I found out that Greg Maxwell had this high-level idea, which later merged into Erlay.
Mm-hmm. And so you wrote Erlay with Brian Bishop, Greg Maxwell, Peter Woola, and a few others, right?
So I love Brian. He's awesome, but he was not involved in Erlay. Yeah, so this was Greg, Peter, and two of my supervisors from UBC.
Oh, yes. Brian, he shared the Erlay paper and the Bitcoin mailing list, and I shared that on Twitter. That's what I'm thinking of that for.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry for that slip up there. But yeah, so Erlay, it seems like a pretty cool proposal that would do drastic things for bandwidth efficiency. Like I'm looking at the chart right now, like Bitcoin Flood Network, like depending on how many peers you're connected to, you're going to have a bandwidth per month in gigabytes. And if you're connected to 32, this is the simulations you guys did, connected to 32 peers, you're going to consume 17.3 gigs in the Bitcoin Flood transaction model, and then Erlay that gets dropped to -1 gigabyte. How's that possible?
Minus what? What?
0.94?
Yeah. 0.94 gigabyte with Erlay.
Yeah. Less than one.
So this is particularly important it's probably not a big deal in the US, where bandwidth is unlimited, even though you guys probably don't know, but most of the providers have a cap on bandwidth even in states, but you just don't know about it because you never reach it. But a lot of providers still have a 500 gig cap in the US. And in Asia and Africa and other countries, it's much worse. You can look up plans on internet in Africa, and basically they suppose that a household plan has a cap of 30 gig. So imagine your node spending half of that just to relay transactions, and you cannot watch movies because of Bitcoin. And yeah, so that's why I think there is value. And we want people who use Bitcoin as a payment system to be available to run Node at home, because running a node is the most secure way to use Bitcoins for several reasons. Also, running more nodes contributes to the security of the network in general. Yeah, so that's why this is cool. And the second cool part about Erlay is that it allows to increase the connectivity for free. Currently, your node makes 8 connections to nodes in the network, but it is better to create more. So for example, if you connect to 16 instead of 8 today, your bandwidth will go 2 times up. And with Erlay, the cost remains the same due to the mini-sketch library and how we use it.
Yeah, so let's jump into that. Like, how do you guys create these efficiencies? Because they're pretty drastic. Like, it's crazy how big of a reduction in bandwidth usage that is.
Yeah, totally. So we use this idea called set reconciliation to efficiently exchange information about transactions. Instead of announcing transactions right away to all my peers, I will relay them to a small subset of peers, and with the rest of the peers, I'll just efficiently find out what they're missing from me and what I'm missing from them through using mathematical aspects.
Process of elimination almost, or?
Well, so I'll compute a sketch, a compressed representation of my transactions, which I was going to send to you, and I'll request a sketch from you, and based on those two really compressed things, I can very efficiently find what's the difference. So that would allow to save a lot of bandwidth, which used to be redundant before. So redundancy is generally good property in distributed systems because it allows security. It allows not relying on one peer in the network, for example, but it comes with a cost. It comes with bandwidth cost. And with Erlay, we preserve the same redundancy, but just make it more efficient due to the mini-sketch library which we built.
So how does mini-sketch, your particular library, make it more efficient?
This is stuff from an area called information theory. In computer science, information theory discusses how to deliver some data with the least overhead, so as efficiently as possible. And we're using polynomials, and yeah, let's not talk about math. I think
you don't have to get too deep into it.
Yeah.
But essentially, there's math behind this library that's able to condense the information.
Yes, but the cool trick here is that if the difference in our sets is, let's say, 2 elements, so there are 2 transactions I'm missing from you, then no matter how big is the set, we can find this difference just by sending just to the amount of data which is equal to these 2 elements, it's very hard to do better than that. It's almost not possible.
Yeah.
So we're approaching this theoretical bound of it's almost optimal at this point.
No, it's crazy how heady the math behind the cryptography gets when you dig deep into this stuff. And
oh yeah, totally. It's technically not even cryptography.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was even cooler when you're finding another way to apply math, because yeah, that's what I find cool about research. You get to do unexpected things to achieve the goal, and the goal is quite practical, right? We're solving the bandwidth issues, and to slightly improve the security of the network.
Yeah, and so the only trade-off with Erlay is the latency of transaction relay goes up a couple seconds, 2.6 seconds, I believe, right?
Yeah, so it goes up from 2 seconds to 4 seconds or something like that. Depends on the configuration.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very important to clarify this. This is absolutely no big deal, because effectively transaction relay latency, which has almost nothing to do with the block relay, has only 2 implications. First, when submitting a transaction to your friend, you will see it at his phone with 2 seconds delay, which is I don't think it's important. It's it used to take 2, but now it will take at most 4. And second application, it affects, so there is this property of the Bitcoin network called orphan rate. Orphan rate is the amount of blocks which don't become the part of the chain, valid blocks. So sometimes miners mine a valid block, but because of the concurrent valid block, only one of them will become the part of the chain. And transaction relay, the increase in latency might affect that, but in Erlay, even though latency goes up, it's even better for orphan rate. So orphan rate goes down due to the specific details of the protocol. You can look up in the paper if you're interested in more details.
Yeah, no, it's great. So it's a worthwhile trade-off at the end of the day.
Totally. I think if the only negative implication is extra 2 seconds for user experience, while block confirmation time is 10 minutes, it should not be a big deal at all, while this, like, the benefit is huge.
Yeah, 2 seconds of waiting so that majority of the world can successfully run a full node is probably worth it.
Yes, and 2 seconds is really worst case. It's usually faster.
Yeah. And so right now it's only a paper. You guys have a BIP in the works. Is that true? And like, so how do you imagine this getting implemented in the protocol, and what would be including in a BIP if you when it is proposed?
Yeah. So we're writing a BIP. BIP is almost done at this point, I would say. We decided to make BIP really focused on network messages. So just explaining who sends what, the format of messages, what to include there, and all the protocol level specifics, like how often to reconcile, is not going to be there. It's going to be in the paper, and alternative implementations, for example, might change the parameters. We just have recommendations for that. Yeah, so it turned out to be fairly straightforward and I think understandable, probably as simple as BIP on compact blocks written by Matt Coralla. And yeah, I think we'll get it reviewed and making implementations really soon.
Is there a soft or a hard fork or obviously not a hard fork, soft fork or no?
No, nothing really required. It will be fully compatible with existing software, because for old nodes you'll just use the existing protocol and you'll still get a good benefit. Probably not full bandwidth savings until everybody updates, but the benefit is still substantial. And it is also compatible with Dandelion, the peer-to-peer proposal on improving the anonymity of transactions. So yeah, so we might. It's nice that protocol naturally plays well with other things and is backward compatible.
So might try to get that a package deal, or just highlight that it would be compatible with Dandelion.
Well, it would be cool if we include both of things at the same time, but Dandelion development is, I think, it's a bit harder because Bitcoin, we take care about details. So, for example, we cannot just abandon working with orphan transactions, where you try to, not orphan, where you try to relay and confirm transactions chained at the same time. So Dandelion has challenges there.
Okay. But what would be the benefits of Dandelion if that were to be implemented? What are the perceived benefits?
No. So if we implement Dandelion, it will be much harder to spy on the network. So right now, I imagine spyware companies run Bitcoin nodes to monitor the traffic and find who sends which transactions and link transactions to IP addresses. So Dandelion is a big deal in mitigating those guys and making it much more expensive for them to spy.
How does it do that?
So the assumption spies do is that, well, the simplest assumption, if they connect to everybody in the network, the first node to announce a transaction to them will be the source of the transaction, because that's if you think the first node having the transaction is probably the origin. That's the assumption they make. So Dandelion creates instead of flooding the transaction right away, it first sending a transaction just through one link in the network containing on average 10 nodes, so that it's really obscured and a spy would not distinguish the origin of the transaction.
Sort of like a coin join for transaction sending out.
You can think it that way.
Yeah. No, it seems like it's necessary, right? And that's actually what you were talking about when we were walking up here, what you were working on earlier today of trying to figure out a problem with a bunch of nodes running in cloud servers, which could be easily traceable or easily
sort of
identifiable.
So earlier I was talking about so sometimes I switch from research to really hands-on writing code for Bitcoin, and that's what's going on now. I decided to take a little break from Erlay, and I'm acting on the paper was published a week ago or so. It's slightly different. It's focused on an Eclipse attack where so right now the diversity of providers for Bitcoin nodes is sort of low. I just measured that quarter of nodes, of public nodes, are running under just 4 or 3 ASN providers. It's Amazon, DigitalOcean, and some third entity. And because of that, if we corrupt just those 3 entities, like, for example, government makes a deal with them, then the network is in danger. And the changes we're planning to make is to diversify the connections so that we make less connections to Amazon nodes, for example.
Did you say one of the top 3 providers is unknown?
Some third entity, I just looked it up and it didn't, I don't know what is that. It's some German association.
I thought it was like a dark pool. You don't know like his.
Maybe. I don't really know, but yeah.
And so you're trying to prevent Eclipse attacks. An Eclipse attack is when another node feeds you.
Yeah. So an Eclipse attack is if all of your connections are compromised.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if all of your connections are Amazon nodes, then it just requires corrupting Amazon to attack you, to feed you the fake blockchain or double spend you. So send you transactions and pretend that they paid you, but they would spend them on the real chain.
Yeah, and so you're trying to make it so nodes that are spun up within each provider are not connected to too many other nodes within that provider. So that
not really to the same. We're just we will make it so that you connect to Amazon at most once.
Yes. Okay.
Out of your 8 connections, and to DigitalOcean at most once. That's why in that case it would require corrupting 8 providers, essentially.
Yeah. So diversify the risk. Make sure. Yeah. No, that's it's great. It's like things like that people don't think about. And
yeah, totally. We gotta. I'm glad that there is more and more research on peer-to-peer layer on Bitcoin. There was a really cool paper on inferring the topology of Zcash network. So Zcash network it turned out to be just 300 of nodes. The block relay there is very slow because they don't have compact blocks, and because of that, inferring the topology and finding out who connects to who is very easy. And once you do that, it's much easier to split the network. It's much easier to find the origin of the transaction. So whatever zero knowledge stuff you're doing doesn't really matter because everybody can find which IP's transaction sent from.
I haven't heard anything about this. There's only been 300 nodes running Zcash?
According to that research, yeah. Well, there are maybe more nodes behind firewalls, but I don't think so. Yeah. Yeah,
probably not likely. There's only.
So in Bitcoin, there are 10,000 public nodes, and in Zcash it turns out to be 300.
That's pretty crazy. And then Luke Dash Jr.'s estimate was that like 60,000 non-listening nodes or something like that.
Yes. Yeah. That's true.
And what is and can we go over like what a non-listening node is and why that's not counted in like the 10,000 nodes that we'll see on like CoinDense or something like that?
Yeah. So non-listening nodes are running. If you start a node at home, you usually have a router which protects you from outside world. So it allows only traffic to go outside of your home, but not inside. Well, in simple words, yeah. That's why those nodes are not reachable. You cannot find them. They only can find you, essentially. Yeah.
Are they? Yeah. No, it's
There are different trade-offs. So, for example, for miners or for exchanges, we still don't really know what is better. I'm actually very curious about your strategies of miners and exchanges. So, if you're doing that and you have some insights, please reach out to us, because there are like different trade-offs. So, for example, public node is better connected, so it's harder to analyze its traffic. But at the same time, since it is possible to connect to it, if an attacker really targets a node and knows that that's an exchange, it can look after it. It's not super clear.
No, yeah, can attack it and hone in on it and try to figure out a way to get through the cracks. And what would the benefits of being a non-listening node for exchanges be?
Nobody can connect to you, so it's much harder, for example, to shut your node down, because right now there are botnets which just you can hire them for, I don't know, $1 an hour and effectively just kill the node on the network. So ideally, perhaps every exchange runs couple private nodes and couple public nodes to obscure traffic, to make it harder to kill a node. So, yeah.
What was your strategy when you guys were building the exchange in Ukraine?
We just took basic like IT security strategies, which I shouldn't probably talk about.
Okay. Yeah.
Because that's like how security works sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think more research here is important to get these best practices of running a node for an exchange, for example.
That's why we got things like Bitcoin Optech out there leading the way.
Oh yeah, totally. That's very valuable. Yeah, that's I think a very valuable.
That's what I actually had that up to. Let me see if I can pull it up here real quickly. I don't know if I have it right in front of me. I don't. But Optech came out with that cool cross graph of like showing
wallets.
Wallets and exchanges. It was like Beck32 and SegWit ready and stuff like that, and it's a good matrix to go check out to know which exchanges are on top of things and which aren't. It's interesting to see which providers are on top of their stuff. But it's something like it really showed, like in 2017, these exchanges not being ready infrastructurally like hindered the network, right? Like December 2017, you had all the exchanges going down. People basically couldn't get access to the exchanges, let alone buy and sell Bitcoin or move it to their own wallets, and we had the fees go up. And it was a great case study in maybe the industry, quote unquote, of people building on top of Bitcoin was not prepared to be as efficient as possible with this network.
I'm not sure it went down for those reasons. Maybe it went down because they wanted to make more money. Yeah, I really don't know. I have no idea why those guys are not implementing SegWit addresses or all those things. It's like, it's not that much effort. It's just beyond my understanding.
Well, my thesis is, for some of them at least, like maybe they don't know that they need to know, and like maybe they just are stumbled into their success to a certain extent.
Another thing is, I don't understand how those huge businesses on top of Bitcoin don't contribute to the ecosystem, except just running their exchange. Yeah, I haven't.
We got to give a shout out to Square and Cash App today. They just.
Totally.
Are you sad to lose Matt Corralo from the chain code offices?
So, I honestly think that Matt is one of the best people to start building a Bitcoin-focused team. Like, you basically cannot find anyone else with that experience and open-mindedness and, I don't know, friendliness. So that's really cool. And even though we're not gonna lose Matt, because it's like Bitcoin. Bitcoin is
right.
International and whatever, worldwide. He will be always available, I'm sure. But having one more team which is focused on Bitcoin is really cool, and I think Matt and Steve will build a really cool project.
Yeah, shout out to Matt. Matt is one of the most tenured guest on Tales from the Crypt. He's been back a few times, and we will speak to him again about his transition to Square Crypto. But I completely agree. Like, if you're going to have somebody come anchor a team, he's somebody who's been writing code for Bitcoin since he was in college and been to Blockstream, been to Chain Code. And that's the interesting about him. Now he's going to Square Crypto. Like, he seems like he's just like hopping from place to place, spreading his wings a little further, and then spreading the Bitcoin love to a new company.
Yeah, I think everybody understands that there is no contention, there is no conspiracy. It's just how Bitcoin works, right? It's like nobody competes on contributing to Bitcoin core. We're all working together.
Yeah, but it's such a weird thing for a lot of like incumbent companies, profit-driven companies in particular, to come to grips with and then put their guard down and cooperate with each other. Like the perfect example is like the consortium of private like distributed ledger technology consortium, like R3 and all that stuff.
Yeah, I think Bitcoin is very different.
Yeah, it came to be that like JP Morgan and Deutsche Bank and all those banks didn't want to work together and couldn't cooperate at the end of the day. And that's the beauty of Bitcoin. Like, it is open source, and if everybody's benefiting from it, and like I think we were saying earlier, like, it makes sense that like you would contribute to this because it's going to make your underlying investment in the token Bitcoin more valuable. Yeah,
I think we're getting much better there. There is MIT Digital Currency Initiative, Blockstream, Chain Code. Now there is Square Crypto. BitMEX supported Funquake, right?
Mm-hmm.
I hope there are more companies like...
Yeah, I think BitMEX is like supporting devs through MIT or something like that.
Or, yeah, whatever. But anyway, I'm saying that we're getting better at funding core development. I hope we'll get even better because we're still, I think, lacking more review, more contributions. I hope we'll have more researchers from academia interested. And yeah, I'm doing my best to achieve.
Well, that's a good segue into what you're doing in November, and you're presenting at the ACM conference on computer and communication security, and you were tweeting that you're very excited to get to that conference in particular to try to maybe convert some of those security researchers to think about Bitcoin.
Oh yeah, totally. So this is like top 3 security conferences in the world. So it's just like the basically best people who invented RSA and ECDSA and all those fancy names we're using now in Bitcoin. And I think we already know some folks, like for example, Tor developers are always around with the Bitcoin community, and we see them from time to time. But I think Bitcoin still lacking a bit of legitimacy from the point of peer review. For example, yeah, I think our like Blockstream's work on signatures, I think it is super. It would be super interesting for that community, but it's not known enough. And talking at the conferences helps to reach out to the well experienced like top security minds.
Yeah, you think this crowd would be very interested in Bitcoin because it's such a fascinating like new technology. What are most of these researchers working on at the moment, and what are they focused on, like creating new cryptography curves and stuff like that, or
well,
signature curves?
There was just another conference going on a couple of days ago. It's Unique Security, and I was looking at the papers, and there is really similar stuff. So I haven't got a couple ideas from there. There was a paper about how some researchers decided to measure how easy it to attack a Tor network, to hire botnets to spam Tor nodes and essentially put the network down. And I just became curious. Okay, so can we apply that to Bitcoin? How much would it be to attack the public infrastructure in Bitcoin? Because it's essentially very similar. Yeah, so that's perhaps I will start looking at it once I finish my current tiny thing about diversifying the providers. So that's a good example of what researchers are looking at.
Yeah, and now the coexistence of Bitcoin and Tor is pretty fascinating, right? Because especially Bitcoin relying on Tor, especially for people running nodes in particular countries and trying to run Lightning nodes and stuff like that. So a lot of people have been trying to encourage Bitcoiners to run Tor nodes as well to help support that network, because we may, as the Bitcoin network, rely on that pretty heavily in the future. Is that a correct assumption?
It's a bit more complicated because Tor is not always as good as we think it is.
Mm-hmm.
But generally, yes, I think Tor is definitely it's not worse than regular, and it is often better. That's why there is certainly value in running under Tor.
Yeah. Do you think it's necessary though in the long run to evade like state co-option to be able to run this stuff through Tor?
It's good to have it around. It's good to have support, because even if we will decide that, okay, so Tor is probably not that good, if people want to use Tor, I think we should let them do it. That's why having this infrastructure available is important for Bitcoin.
Yeah. And have you seen the interest into Bitcoin research grow at all? Do you think it's been growing steadily, not fast enough? Do you think it just needs to grow faster because we need to scale this network out faster, or?
Well, I look at it as it's like a free market. If people are interested, they will contribute. So we probably should. There is, in mid-October, there is a research summit at MIT where a couple of academics, or perhaps several dozens, will get together and figure out where Bitcoin research is going to. So if you're doing research and interested in contributing to Bitcoin, come and talk to us. We have ideas for you to contribute, like just interest in areas which were not really worked on before. For example, like research on peer-to-peer stuff was when torrent was invented in the 90s. And then once we solved most of the problems with torrent, it all went down because nobody really cared anymore. And then Bitcoin is the new application, and there is a lot of room to contribute, to measure, I don't know, proof of work, efficiency, and not like how well it works. For example, the selfish mining attack. It's really cool to show that even if you don't own half of the mining hash power, you still can attack the network. So those things, economic aspects, future, what's going to happen when we're out of subsidy and now miners receive only fees. Peer-to-peer, cryptography, like there is a lot of room. We're trying to bring more attention, and it goes. We're doing it, I think, quite well.
No, it's crazy because there's so many facets that make Bitcoin work, right? It's an incentive system, so it's economic, and like trying to figure out can it last without an emissions tail is a question that a lot of people are still positing and uncertain of. I come from that's where I come from, is like the economics background. I'm confident that a fee market will develop just simply because the demand for a peer-to-peer distributed censorship-resistant transactions will be there in the future, especially when you take into consideration the way the world's going.
But it's not entirely clear for me now, because what do you mean by develop? If Bitcoin is still 1 megabyte blocks and we are out of subsidy, then how much transactions would cost? Like $100 or something to have the same reward? Or will the reward goes down? Yeah. I don't know. I think that's like a very interesting.
Well, that's something that we're going to have to figure out and see how the limitations of this network really, what they allow us to do. And I'm sort of partial towards Hal Finney's vision of Bitcoin banks, and think of the protocol layer as a huge settlement layer that enables even a little less trustless, but more trustless than the incumbent system that we grew up with. Mm-hmm. And that sort of makes sense to me. But again, who knows? Like that's the way I see it, and I can see it developing that way, and that makes sense to me at least.
Yeah, I think Lightning is a big hope. I'm a
Yeah.
big fan. I'm not super like knowledgeable about it. I still I'm trying to learn, but yeah, I hope it helps us to figure out the fee market too.
That's how crazy it is, because I've talked to people on this podcast in the past and like who are very like very engaged and building on Lightning, and even they're like, we need more researchers, like we need help to figure out like channel routing. Like this is like a lot of routing issues on that network in particular. You need like routing experts from telecoms industry to come in and help with like the routing of the Lightning network in particular.
I think they're doing fine. I think
Yeah. Oh yeah, up to this point too, but like that's the thing though. There's so much potential and there's so much people want to do with it. It's like
yeah, totally.
and the call to arms, if you will. That's why it is. Like I know we're talking about like the need for researchers, but I think slowly but surely, like luckily, chain code and Blockstream were there to pave the way, and MIT, and now Square Crypto is huge. I think because you have like a huge publicly traded company here in the States, being like, all right, we're putting our muscle behind Bitcoin. This is something we're socially signaling that this is something we think is going to be around. If you're not investing in it, you're an idiot, and that'll just scare other companies into doing the same. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Ameritrade comes out. Actually, that's who was, because I thought it was weird that BitMEX would support MIT since they're based out of the Shikelis. I think it was Ameritrade that was supporting MIT devs.
Yeah, so I don't know the background. I just know.
Yeah, but I just think naturally, like social pressures will start to come in for these larger corporations that are interacting with Bitcoin or plan to interact with Bitcoin, and it makes sense, right? If you're gonna hatch your business plan onto Bitcoin in any way, shape, or form, like to contribute to the bolstering of that system and making it more robust and more valuable at the end of the day, just makes complete sense for.
Yeah, I think even at least one exchange, one of big exchanges, dedicated one developer, even not to contribute, but just to review code and act big commits. That would be already a big deal.
Just to hang on bitcoinax.com all day. Bitcoinax.com, given to us by Pierre Rochard. If you're ever looking to see what is popular in the Bitcoin repository and what's currently being talked about and reviewed, that's where you should go. So the whole concept of like code review and Bitcoin in particular seems daunting for a lot of people. Like I know a lot of people may seem apprehensive to put their opinion out there because again, this is critical code that like the future of financial privacy may depend on, and a lot of like, what would you recommend to people who may be a little bit apprehensive, and how should they approach reviewing this stuff and interacting with?
So I think the best way is to get to know somebody in person. Go to one of the conferences at Meetup, because guys from Blockstream go to San Francisco Bitcoin Meetup, whatever, core development or what is it called. We have BitDevs at Chaincode, and in Boston there is now Bitcoin Meetup where MIT guys are involved, or we always have conferences around the world like Scale in Bitcoin, Advance in Bitcoin, and all those. So just come and say hi to Bitcoin core developers, and once you understand how friendly are those people and welcoming, and always willing to share their knowledge, I think you'll feel better and you'll feel more confident. So that's what happened to me. Before going to Scale in 2017, I thought that Bitcoin community is sort of toxic, because I don't know. Honestly, I was reading Peter Todd's Twitter, and it felt like it's like scary. I shouldn't go there. But then, like, it changed a lot in person, and I think everybody is super friendly at this point.
No, yeah, that's what you'll come to find. Everybody's a little bit more vitriolic on Twitter than they are in real life, and the rumors of Bitcoiners being evil right-wingers looking to take over the world is very far from the truth. It's a bunch of, from my experience, just a bunch of people are excited by a quasi-alien technology that they feel could change the world, and they feel driven to work on it. Like, do you feel driven to work on Bitcoin in particular?
Can you?
Like, do you feel like a responsibility to work on Bitcoin as opposed to other things. Like you go work on other distributed systems, like maybe like Tor or something like that. What about Bitcoin?
Well, it's nice to feel that you're doing something good, but I think genuine interest drives me more. Like this area which has a lot of room to contribute and unsolved problems, and yeah, so it's hard to tell me which aspect is larger.
Yeah,
But
you see like an open frontier in front of you. You can roll up your sleeves and get like a bunch of cool stuff done.
yeah, and it's much better once you actually realize that it is used by people and it's enables something better than we have today. It's like people can send transactions abroad within minutes, and yeah,
Yeah.
this is super cool.
No, thank you for deciding to work on Bitcoin. You've proposed some pretty dope shit. So
I'm glad that there are now companies and entities which can support our work. It was very different in the early days, I think. So now, yeah, I encourage more people to join us in our contributions.
yeah, join us. No, and it's like I've been interviewing the residents of the summer program at Chain Code over the last couple weeks, and seeing how invigorated they have been just to be able to meet for the last 6 weeks, whatever it's been. And because I remember the first night they came, it was BitDevs like 2 months ago. And they were all out to drinks after the BitDevs meetup, and you could see like the jovialness of them just meeting for the first time, and like they seemed a little nervous about what was to come. And speaking with them like 4 to 5 months in, it's like it seems like you guys are Chain Code's running a very very good program, and these people seem invigorated, and seem like they've actually accomplished stuff in the last 5 weeks, and it's because they've been able to bounce ideas off each other and build off each other, which just being able to create that environment is, like you said, we need more of that. Yes,
totally. I think those guys will be the future, part of our future of building Bitcoin.
Yeah. No, it feels like, again, another thing I think is like the decade mark is huge too. Like, people see that Bitcoin's been around for 10 years, and that just saying that like 1 decade, just in people's mind, just humans, like round numbers, like 10 years, that's a long time. Like maybe this thing isn't going away.
It's hard for me to justify that, because honestly, I think even if Bitcoin was 1 year, for me it would still be huge. It would be like us by just what it does, and yeah, I don't know. It's like it's just beautiful. The whole proof of work thing. The way that it actually works, and people are running nodes and signing transactions with all those different ways today. Somebody uses hardware wallets, somebody uses mobile Android things, and I don't know.
Well, that was cool about what what SIPA dropped today with MIDI script. Like that's going to enable like wallet developers to create way more complex transaction schemes, which therefore make it a bit harder to get at your Bitcoin.
Yeah, make it much easier. Yeah, I think there is big value there, because wallets, I think wallets should do better at integrating all the features we have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's been hard, right? Because interacting with Bitcoin script isn't easy.
Yeah, totally. So this is very valuable, having Miniscript around.
So how would you describe Miniscript from your point of view?
Miniscript is a much easier way to express the way you want to construct a transaction. So for example, if you have some complicated multisig where one of the signatures should work all together with time lock. So for example, I can use this key but only in 5 years. And before Miniscript, a developer would have to mess around with Bitcoin script, which is very low level stack-based language, and it's very easy to mess up. And yeah, and now it's much simpler. They developed an expressive language which compiles to Bitcoin script.
Yeah, and it's not. It doesn't need any upgrade or anything. Bitcoin doesn't need any upgrade for it, right? You can just compile Miniscript on top of Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think it works with Bitcoin today.
Yeah, which is really cool, and that's crazy. And again, that's the other. So, are you happy with the where Bitcoin is today from an engineering perspective? Like, do you think it's robust enough? Do you think we definitely need things like store and taproot to survive into perpetuity? Are they good to haves but not need to haves? Things like that.
It's very hard for me to justify. I think there is. So at one point, I think Bitcoin is underrepresented, like among people. Not enough people are using Bitcoin. We're probably the way we have Bitcoin today is good enough to serve more people, which is not necessarily the case for Lightning, because I know Lightning developers are always, no, it's too early, don't use this yet. With Bitcoin, I think we are a bit ahead. It doesn't mean that we should stop. Attacks on Bitcoin are still possible. Like attacks on the peer-to-peer layer I'm working on is possible, but I'm always saying like 5 years ago, attacking a Bitcoin peer-to-peer network was $10,000. Today it's probably $100,000, and we want to get to the point where it is billions of dollars or something. Mm-hmm. So there is always room. We're doing quite well for now, I think.
Yeah. No, and so where do you see Bitcoin progressing in the future, and like how do you see it changing humanity? Like, do you feel driven to this because of the like being from the Ukraine? Do you think?
Yeah. So I think Bitcoin today is already very well, and it is already an important technology. It allows people to receive transactions within minutes. It's like even if it doesn't become a world payment system, I think it's like it has a huge value today. It's probably undervalued by most of the people, I think, because I'm much more excited about Bitcoin even today, and I'm not thinking much about the future. If 1% of people in the world are using Bitcoin, that's a huge success. We're a bit quite not there yet.
Definitely not there yet, but
but I'm totally not worried, and it honestly serving like entire world is very challenging. It's not exactly clear for me how it will work with proof of work and the whole energy thing. I know right now all the stuff about Bitcoin consumes energy of Denmark is like FUD, and it's actually like it's fun. There was an article which explained that all that research is created by one person citing himself all the time about how bad is proof of work. But I'm not sure what's going to happen if everybody starts using Bitcoin. Is it actually going to be bad or not? So I was just wanted to say that I'm very satisfied with what Bitcoin already accomplished.
Yeah. No, I think I'm one of the believers that proof of work is going to make us one of the most energy efficient civilizations that's ever lived. Because I've actually seen it firsthand here in the States, in particular, in oil fields that are flaring natural gas. Like these natural gas fields, they're very dirty to begin with, but they have a problem where they can't transport the energy from the field in the middle of nowhere to the economic hubs where people are actually using the energy, so they just have to flare it into the atmosphere, which is a lot worse for the environment. So I've seen setups, and they're like upstream data's got I've seen setups similar to what upstream data's doing with their own projects, but you go, instead of just leaking that gas in the atmosphere, which is way worse, you cap it, you bring Bitcoin miners to the place so you don't have to transport the energy. They just use it on site, and you have millions of oil fields leaking all this stuff into the atmosphere and just wasting it. And Bitcoin finally provides the incentive to go cap and use that. And then on top of that, like, it also incentivizes renewable energy innovation and production, right?
Yeah, I wish it was true, and I think what you explained about like the energy in difficult locations is totally true. I'm just slightly worried with the fact that so right now it costs $100,000 to rewrite a block, for example. Of course, incentives in Bitcoin are aligned in that way. It's always better for an attacker to mine on the real chain and not attack. But so if imagine today everybody starts using Bitcoin, transactions are probably have much more value, and then people are moving around like millions of dollars per block. So the reward should be as big as people are moving to increase the cost of an attack. And that would drive miners spending more and more energy. So probably not renewables might not be enough.
I think there's plenty of untapped renewable. Like that's what I think. It's going to make us go find all that. And again, like there is a lot of open. There's a lot of oil fields on the planet, and a lot of them are wasting that energy. So like, yeah, I think it makes sense. I think we have a lot of runway before, but you're also going to have people in cities just like plugging in miners to get Bitcoin as well, but that'll drive up energy prices. Then you have economics coming to play. Like if it ever does get to a point where like too many people are consuming energy for Bitcoin, they're going to get priced out eventually.
I really hope so. I used to be very pro free market and pro capitalist, but then I realized that it's probably more difficult for me because imagine a beautiful hike. So if there was no regulation at all, there will be a Starbucks shop at the end of every hike, ruining the view. And that's why I think I'm a bit afraid of where this uncontrolled mining might lead us. And free market.
Well, you also have to think ASIC commodification comes into play too, right? So if the price to produce the ASICs is driven down considerably as well, and therefore the price to acquire them, you have less capital cost there, therefore less need to expend as much energy.
I don't see how the ASIC part plays in the whole equation of mining, but yeah, I got to learn more.
Not that it would make them consume less energy, but you have like
I think it evens out.
Yeah, so what's your biggest worry that it does even out? You're right. What's your biggest worry that this miners get, or Bitcoin becomes too big of a frenzy?
No, I'm actually more worried that transaction fees will go up and will end up having the same financial system as we used to have with custodials and all that. So hopefully Lightning will work here well to not commit every transaction to the blocks. But if there was no Lightning, once the Bitcoin gets more popular and we run out of subsidy, without Lightning, there will be just exchanges sending transactions to each other, and people will just
what's the point then?
Not even have private keys. Yeah.
No, I agree. I do think things like Lightning need to succeed. And is there any other like second layer protocols that you're looking at, or anything on?
I'm.
Do you have any thoughts on state chains or Liquid?
I think there is a room for those protocols. I think Liquid is a very cool idea. I hope it will be used more and more by the exchanges and their customers it targets. I'm not sure we're there yet. Like Lightning can be used today. Liquid maybe will get more popular once Bitcoin gets more popular. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Because Lightning is more available to geeks, it feels like, right? You can just go and
start building on it. So how I see that, but do you think we're still extremely early, or do you feel like an urgency to build all this stuff? Because how long do you see Bitcoin I know you don't like to think about the future. This is funny. Like developers, like I had Fabian Yar on last night, and he was like, I don't like to think about the future either. And it was like trying to get him to predict stuff. He's like, I don't know. I don't like to talk about that. But like if we do envision Bitcoin as a system that's around for many centuries, if not millennia, potentially, like we're so early. And how do you temper the amount of urgency with the amount of care that should be taken with like reviewing the code as you upgrade the system, right? Or build on top of it, if you will.
Can you read?
Yeah, in short, like, do you think there's like an urgency to build out these second layers? And
I think so. I used to think that we actually built everything enough, and now we need to market it more. But then Lightning developers always approaching me and say, no, we should build more first. We should like promise the security and show that it's actually robust, and then we can start marketing it.
No, but I guess what I'm trying to get at is like, do you feel like humanity needs Bitcoin now or in the near term future?
Bitcoin is used today.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I use
Yes.
it. But do you feel like the system needs to get to a point where everybody can use it right now for a reason? Like, are you worried about the traditional economy, the traditional financial system, or do you just think Bitcoin's better and people should just use it because of that?
I think Bitcoin is better. Yeah. I think I'm not sure humanity is gonna change much.
Mm-hmm.
So Bitcoin today helps people, and that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but I think Bitcoin changes people, though. That's what I say a lot. Bitcoin changes Bitcoin's going to change you more than you change Bitcoin. Like, many people will scream about bigger blocks and stuff like that, and whether or not we should add emissions right now. But you'll find that Bitcoin changes your temperament more than your ability to sort of change Bitcoin as a system.
Yeah, we need more population to understand that phenomena, because so far Bitcoin was very nerdy, right?
Yeah.
It's like it gets more and more mainstream, and you gotta look at those people who were not into this anarchy and privacy, and now they're getting into it. And
well, it's like things you had last week. Samsung announced the S10 is going to have a Bitcoin wallet in it now, and just small things like that. People getting their Samsung phone and be like, holy crap, there's a Bitcoin wallet. Like, should I have Bitcoin? Like, should I learn about this?
I think, well, I think it's definitely not bad.
I would never keep my coins on the Samsung S10. It's just like for the psychology of the users, they just see like, oh, Samsung's got Bitcoin on it now.
There is this concept of smart money where you don't want every investor to invest in your startup, but you want somebody who understands stuff to invest.
Yeah.
So I think in the same way, we probably it's not necessarily that those people who don't understand shit but just see an app will be good members of community, because if then they buy BSV or some other shitcoin, then what's the point? So I think education first, but if Samsung makes them to go and read about Bitcoin, that's good.
Okay,
yes.
So you think there should be like education pushes with when you roll it. That's why I liked what Cash App announced that they were rolling out Bitcoin. First they had that little book, What is Bitcoin?
Yeah.
That's what we try to do here at this podcast. That's why we're here talking. We're trying to educate people about the Bitcoin network. And so how would you attempt to educate somebody who has no knowledge of Bitcoin from scratch? Where would you point them to first? The white paper, some other types of writings, keeping in mind the audience that you're speaking to?
It always depends on the background. I prefer to give a couple sentences description by myself. I always tell that about 10 years ago, people decided that they want to be in control of their money, and that if you put your dollars under your mattress and forget about them for a year, in a year you lose 20% in value in amount of goods you can purchase because of the inflation. Yeah. So, and then people decided that they don't want everybody to be able to track their transactions and to charge them fees and to take part in this super inefficient banking system. And then after that, we can discuss a bit. And then I can send them, depends on, if they're technical, I can send them to the white paper. If they're more like non-technical, I can, I don't know, Andreas Antonopoulos or yeah.
You can always send the Tales from the Crypt too, if you.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Kidding. No, it's it's a problem I've been thinking about for many years now. Like, and that's the main crux of the problem is everybody has a different way, different avenue through which they come to understand Bitcoin, and trying to create one resource that sort of pertains to everybody is not easy in Bitcoin, right? Because like a lot of people come to it from like an engineering perspective, and I came to it from an economics perspective, and I'm trying my best to learn as much about the distributed system as possible. But as you can tell, I have a lot of catching up to do.
I think you're doing quite well.
Oh, thank you, sir. But it's fun to be a part of, though, isn't it? Do you like waking up and working on Bitcoin code every day?
Totally. I'm like, I'm like proud of what I'm doing because I can talk to my friends. So I did undergrad in like software engineering, and it's always cool to be passionate about, as opposite to just do what you're told to do and not being excited at all. So I'm always like, I'm grateful that I can do it. I can have fun. I can contribute to a better world as I see it. I can do this cool research and technical contributions. And I'm like getting to know all the best people who quit Google and Microsoft and all that, just to, like, we have BitTorrent first developers in Bitcoin. We have Googlers. We have, I don't know, the best cryptographers which would make millions of dollars a year working for IBM or something.
Really?
I can talk to you in person. Yeah.
All right, we'll sidebar that one.
Yeah. And we got a I think this is. I'm very glad that I'm here.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here too. So what do you do outside of Bitcoin? We were talking earlier. You're a big fan of music. Thinking about starting to get in the podcast, but like, what do you do to get your mind off Bitcoin?
I watch a lot of movies, mostly independent stuff, often European or the Sundance program in the US. So basically, almost every night I watch something.
Yeah.
And I have like about 1,000 movies on my list, I think.
Really?
Yeah. Well, it's more than average people, but there are much more crazier guys than me.
Do you have a favorite director or genre within the indie?
It's maybe Lars von Trier. He's from Denmark and he does some crazy stuff. It's the movies where you gotta think about something. Think about like sociological things or philosophical things or how humanity works in general. And yeah, so I like to watch a movie and then spend an hour of just thinking what I just saw.
Yeah. So are you strict, like no looking at your phone while you're watching a movie?
I got a bit worse recently because I got more active on Twitter and it's like distracting. But I used to be like.
Be careful. Twitter is addicting.
Oh yeah.
I have a severe addiction. My name's Marty and I'm addicted to Twitter.
So now it's like 2 times over 2 hours I gotta see Twitter or something.
Yeah.
Which is still not bad, but.
No, movies are a great escape though. Would you ever think about making a movie or?
So I have very difficult relationship with art. I play guitar, but I never produced my own song or anything. So I'm very glad that we have people in the world who can make movies or make songs or write books. I'm not one of them. I'm always like trying to make their life easier because I think the capital is misaligned and like we should all work together as a humanity. So I'm always like, I don't know, if I have friends who are art students, I'm always like buying drinks for them because I feel like that's my way to make it the world a bit more even.
Yeah. No, I love that. And you said there's like an imbalance of capital, and so do you think?
Well, I just think that it's very hard to measure. So, for example, with movies, I always think that producing a movie is a compromise, like finding balance between a producer and the director, where producer are always money-driven and director is always art-driven.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if you take some like Marvel movie or recent Star Wars, which is all about making money, the director just have no opinion there most of the time, and
You don't like Marvel coming out with 22 movies in 2 years?
yeah, that's why I think if capital was aligned better, then there were more independent directors and more really cool, valuable art would be produced.
So what do you look for more in a movie? Like a good storyline, a good script, or like the cinematography and good shooting, good lighting and stuff like that?
All stuff. I think a good director usually take care of the details.
Right.
So it's either that, it's usually in commercial movies you gotta find something you like. You might like music, but in really good stuff, it's like everything plays well together.
What do you think is an example of a perfect movie in your mind?
The Fountain by Darren Aronofsky.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's 2004 or something. It has like a perfect storyline. It has very good acting and music and play and everything.
Do you rewatch it a lot, or?
I watched it 5 times, I think.
Yeah.
I usually don't rewatch stuff, but this was special. Yeah, it has a special place in my heart.
What are you gonna watch tonight?
I'll see. I'm catching up with some East European, like post-Soviet, because I always ignored it, and I recently found out there is like really good shit there, which is probably would not be well understood by Americans
Today's age, yeah.
Yeah.
Why? Why not?
It's so one of the things I find very valuable in artists is feeling the time and feeling the surrounding and environment. That's why me being raised there is like when somebody uses some slang word, I always like, yes, this is like very precise, and movies are, I'm always looking at the more wider and difficult concepts, and feeling those is very important. So for example, it's a bit not related. There is this modern philosopher Slavoj Žižek from Yugoslavia or something,
Mm-hmm.
and he's quite popular on YouTube, and people always make memes of him because he speaks in a very funny way. But I think he's like, without memes, he understands word so well that I always enjoy watching him, and exactly because of that, because it feels like he just took what I have in my brain and put it all together like as a system, and I was like, yes, that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, being able to illustrate the current condition of a given time.
Yes, in a very, with good analogies, and yeah.
No, it's not easy. And as somebody who writes every day, that's why I want to write something more long form, is so I can try and tap into some of that zeitgeist of the modern times, right? And I have ideas of writing like a fiction book that's completely topical or analytic. But
I always love when people change background. I used to have, I still have a friend in Ukraine who used to be a successful developer, and then he just decided that it's not his thing, and he quit. And he's now earning 10 times less than he used to, but he enjoys what he's doing, and I'm very proud of him. Nobody understands him but me. I'm like, yes, I'm glad that you're doing this, and I'm telling everybody that this is an example how you should live life. You should do what you like. That's the most important.
I don't want to pat myself on the back here, but out of college I worked at a something like akin to a hedge fund, a very specific type of hedge fund, and I'd worked there for 3 years, and one day I was sitting in my cube. I was like, I can't take this anymore, and I had to quit. And I didn't just show up one day, or actually, it's a funny story. I thought I was going to quit on June, or I shouldn't dox myself here. I almost just doxed myself. I thought I was going to quit like in the middle of June, and it was a few weeks before that. And it was my birthday. Nobody said happy birthday to me. And I knew I was quitting in a couple weeks to take this design boot camp. And it was like, you know what? It's not worth it. The 2 weeks being here is not worth it. And nobody said happy birthday, so I went and quit like a little diva. But no, it's something that I would actually recommend too. Like I love that job. I actually love the people I work with too. I mean, I didn't love that job. I did not like that job, but I love the people I work with, and I learned a lot. It's hard. It's like a love-hate relationship.
Yeah,
like I love how much I learned and the people I work with, but did not see my future progressing through that hierarchical ladder. And I took a big pay cut.
I think it's strictly better to do what you actually like, and you'll just do better. Perhaps it will take a bit longer to succeed there. But yeah, so that's why I'm always very supportive of people changing backgrounds, quitting school. It's all like, yeah, just do it.
You only have one life. We're only on this
Right.
planet for a very, and it goes fast. Like
Yes, so I'm very happy that at this point I found my thing. I'm involved with Bitcoin, and I don't know where I'm gonna be in 5 years, but so far it seems fun.
Yeah. What would you focus on if you weren't working on Bitcoin, do you think?
You're asking what would be something else?
Yeah.
Oh, I have no idea.
You're so deep in it now, you can't even think.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I don't
Well, I can probably find a job in software security or something, but if we
I'm
think-
sure you could.
But if you think about something completely different, then I don't know. I can write about movies.
It seems like you've seen enough to write about enough.
Numbers, it's not enough, but yeah.
Yeah, it's true. The content has to be good, right? You can't just watch them. Has to be good content. This has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you again for coming
I
through.
enjoyed.
Is there anything that you're working on that you want to touch on before we wrap up here, or anything else in particular you want to touch on?
I would probably encourage just the listeners that if you have an idea how to improve peer-to-peer of Bitcoin, there is no magic in what we're doing. There is like no strict rules. If you think that your idea is actually will make Bitcoin better, just come and share and ask us, and we can talk. And because I think there is a lot of room. So yeah, just reach out, guys, if you have something, and we gotta help you implement it. Because peer-to-peer doesn't require any forks usually. That's why it's much easier to implement your ideas. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't be shy. Don't be put yourself out there, especially if you're in a position or somewhere you're not liking what you're doing and you're thinking about contributing. You know, stick your neck out there. Greg Maxwell may yell at you, but you know what? You put yourself out there. You tried, and you're gonna learn at the end of the day.
Yes.
And that's all. We're all learning together, and we're all building the system together. And it's I feel like I've met a kindred spirit here. Like I'm seeing somebody who's gotten to come work on the system, and you feel invigorated, and you look like you're happy and pumped to be working on what you're working on.
Totally.
And Gleb, I want to thank you for doing what you're doing, helping Bitcoin, because it helps all of us. And again, I truly believe it's one of the most important technologies on the world right now, and anybody working to strengthen that is A-OK in my book.
Yeah, thank you for having me over. We'll keep making Bitcoin better.
Yeah, maybe we'll do this again sometime too.
Oh yeah.
That's all we got this week, Freaks. Peace and love.